Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm going to give y'all a couple minutes to join, but we are here with Kaitlin Slattery. Oh, we're going to do that here. We're still figuring out Zoom, 2 years later. Okay, so we're here with Kaitlin Slattery. Kaitlin is the founder and full owner of Dreamer Supply Company. And I put this in the Instagram stories, but I was at Palmetto Bluff this summer and was in this little store called Paris Market, and I saw this bag from across the store, and I'm like a bag lady and I love all different bags. And I said, oh, it's just so beautiful. It had this beautiful liner in it. And the salesperson came up to me and said, oh, it's this little designer out of Alabama. And I was thinking, well, I'm in Alabama. Where is she? And she said, she's in Birmingham. I said, well, I'm in Birmingham. Where is she? So anyway, I instantly came back and connected with Kaitlin. And that's the fun thing about, if there's anything fun that's come out of this pandemic, it's that the connections with women business owners that have just done amazing things through the pandemic is real and something that will extend beyond the pandemic and when we get to be back together in person. So Kaitlin, welcome to the Wealth Edit. We are so glad that you're here. And why don't you just start out by telling us your story?
Okay. All right. So I am 31 years old, just context. Where do I start? Okay, adult life. So I always knew I was going to be creative in some capacity. My parents made me I always knew that they loved me, and I always knew that they believed in me. They never pushed anything on me. It was never like really pushed me to get like the best grades or be the best volleyball player or be the best. Like they were just like, you do you. Like they were very like just hands off but hands on. And so I grew up with this incredible confidence and like self-assurance, and like I didn't have to grapple with a lot of the emotional connections when it comes to like relationships and the sky's the limit, all of that. I was like, I can do anything. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm gonna do anything. Like and so
My mom too, she's on the call. Hi, Mom. Yeah.
It's so funny to me because like people were like, did you know you always wanted to do this? I'm like, well, I always gravitated towards like creative disciplines. It just never was something that was like, I'm a painter, I'm a this. And so I kind of just dabbled all over the place. And after I left high school, I fell in love with, I was like that girl. I was like, I got engaged at 19, married at 20 to Alan. And Alan is from Duluth, Minnesota. So he's like 2 hours from the Canadian border. So like 5 states, like so far away. But he happened to be down here and we fell in love. And we just, even though we were so young, it was like I could see, like close my eyes and see 30 years in the future. And I was like, I know exactly who he's going to be. And it doesn't matter, like all the details. Again, you see a pattern in my life, like where I'm like, there's nothing specific, like what is our career or what is this? But I was like, I saw him for who he was and I knew how he'd grow as a person, and all the other stuff would work itself out. And I've been absolutely right about that. And so we got married very young. Like I can't look at our wedding photos without being like, oh my gosh, like children. But we were right. Like I loved him, and we just knew we would create something great together. So we worked full time for a few years in Birmingham, just at full-time jobs. Like I was cafe manager and he was working logistics at another company. It was like random. And we both went to Savannah and just felt like it was crazy. Like we went and we're like, let's just take a tour. And we hadn't gone and gotten our undergrad yet. And I was 20 at this point, 21 at this point, and Alan was 24. And we just really hadn't, we've done some stuff here and there. I'd done some internships and he had done like another ministry internship, but nothing seemed to stick in terms of like, if we know that both of our parents were blue collar and they have no plan or finances set aside for us, like if we're taking on that burden, we need to be dang sure of what we're going to do and not just go to school to go to school. And so we were at in Savannah for an anniversary trip, and we're like, let's just go we saw like a bus drive by and it said accessory design, and Alan had been dabbling with work, and he's like, gosh, there's a career for that. Like there's people who design the shoes that get made. And then like, and then for me, I'd been playing with graphic design a little bit. I was an intern. I was Holly. I don't know if you know Holly Holland, but
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So I was her first intern, like back in 2012, and she poured into me and like just did the best she could. Like she was like, I don't know what to do with an intern, but we're just gonna go for it. So we talked about like Meg Ryan and New York in the fall, and and she like taught me how, like basically what she did, and I found out about that illustration is a path I could take because I liked graphic design, but I really loved illustration. And illustration is like the weird cousin of graphic design. They marry a lot of times, but illustration is more image heavy rather than graphic design tends to be more like type heavy, like more about like word placement. And so when we were in Savannah, I found out there was an illustration program. And then Alan found out there was an accessory design. And we went and we toured and we talked to professors and we both looked at each other and we're like, would this be crazy if we like
Is that through SCAD? Was that?
Yeah. That was SCAD. And
That's
so I was like,
cool.
what if we like did this? And so we had an incredible advisor who worked with the both of us together to make sure we were both prepared and applied and like went through, because we had some transfer credits and all that kind of stuff. And he made sure that we could both get in at the same time and scholarships and all that kind of stuff. And so it was wonderful. So we left our
I love that story.
So good.
Well, and that's such a good, I don't mean to interrupt, but I have a daughter who's 17 and I know there's others of us who have kids, and just like thinking through, you kind of get in this rat race of like, make sure, like for me this morning, I was like, have you really thought about how many volunteer hours you have yet? And she's like, no, like, why would I have it? I'm thinking, yeah, what, but I realized you get on this rat race of,
you just go,
but it also snuffs out that creative. That's, that anyway, I just am loving hearing this story. You found your way. Okay, so here you are at SCAD, y'all get in together. That's awesome.
So we like did the first and I don't necessarily recommend this for as intensive as SCAD is. We did our first year online in Birmingham so we could keep our full-time jobs and save money, and then we'd make the leap our sophomore year. And so here we were, like I had my 2 weeks in, and I had the thing packed up, and I was like, Alan, we have to have jobs, like full-time jobs to move to. And he was still working, so I because this is how it was still done. I printed out my best resume and I like pounded the pavement and tried to find, and everyone was like, cool, you're from Birmingham, cool. Like, because we don't have any connections, and networking is everything. And so I was sitting down, I was like really just dejected about the whole thing. And I went and just had brunch at that Griffin Tea Room, and which is technically owned by SCAD, and I did not know that. And so, but it's because it's beautiful. It's an old apothecary building. It's gorgeous. Looks like a scene out of Harry Potter. And I went and had brunch, and I was sitting at the counter and I was talking to the bartender and just making small talk. And I was talking about she was asking why I was there, and I was like, well, I'm job hunting. and I was describing my experience, and she's like, hold on for a second. And so she went and she's like, my manager is actually here. My general manager, she never works on Sunday, but I'm gonna go get her because she's here for payroll. And I was like, okay. And I talked to Madeline, and Madeline is now my like Savannah mama. Like, she is so wonderful and scrappy, and she's like from New York. She's just crazy. And so she talked to me for 5 minutes, and I just told her and gave her an elevator pitch of why I would be good, and like I need a job and I'm trying to find it. And she's like, we're actually opening up a French inspired cafe in like 2 months, and we need a manager. We actually need 2 managers. And I was like, well, me and my husband both have experience. She's like, awesome, come on. And what I didn't know, I know, right? I know. I was like, you don't know me. What if I'm a psychopath? Anyways, but and so we got there. And what I didn't know is that she let me know it's owned by the school. And so if you're a full-time employee of the school, it doesn't matter what department, you get a free class, a quarter.
Wow.
huge. If you know, SCAD is a private school, so it is very
It's
expensive.
expensive.
So we
Yeah.
we each got 4 free classes a year then. And so, I mean, think about it, like each of our tuition was half off, like from what
Yeah.
it would have been. And we
Mhm.
never, like, I think about it now and I'm like, we would have been in such a weird, it felt like divine, like boom, 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 boom. It's just crazy. And so we found our way through all that and like graduated SCAD together. And it was such a huge moment. It was the first like major goal we had accomplished together. And it was exhausting because working full time and going to school full time is, I had no life like beyond those 2 capacities. But we did it and it was huge. And it was the first time that like a college graduate in either of our families. And so it was this huge milestone. So when we were at that time, think about it, I was 24, 25, anyways, 25, Alan's 28. And so we'd been married almost 8 years at that point. And so we just kind of like, we're looking, I know, right? Whatever. Oh no. We'd been married. It was 2016 when we graduated. So we'd been married 6 years. And so we were looking at, we really want children. We want blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. And so we were looking at New York, or we were looking at, because that's where 90% of the people who graduated with me, they all went to New York or LA. Like that was kind of where people went. And that's where the jobs are if you're wanting to go that traditional path. And so we were looking at it and I was like, Alan, like, I just don't know. And at that time, Birmingham was so, 2016, it was like, we got, I think our first brewery or second brewery, it was like the first taste of like local love. Like we were getting our first like retail concepts that were original and not a chain. We were getting breweries and restaurants and all this like creativity. And we're like, we could do this. We could go back to Birmingham and we can have babies and we can create something ourselves and everything, and we'll live happily ever after. And then and we can live somewhere affordable, and so we can kind of have it all, where we can have a creative business and have children and have like space and land and family. And that was kind of in our brain, it would just be that easy, right? And so we moved back here. And it was a very bumpy start because I did not anticipate how important networking is. And when we left, I mean, think about it, we were gone almost 5 years, 4.5. And so when we came back, like our whole network that we had, I mean, they moved on and it's all over the place. And so when I would apply to things, I mean, it might be awesome that I'm a SCAD grad, but if the entire team graduated Auburn and there's someone coming in who's an Auburn grad and I'm a SCAD grad, they know Auburn's program for graphic design. They don't know SCAD's. And so I don't fault them for it at all, but that's what would happen because you're like, you know what to expect. Mm-hmm. And so I was just hitting a ceiling every single time. And I'll be honest, that was like when I've never experienced depression. And that was like when I experienced depression, like hard. And then I had a miscarriage and then it was just like rain, it pours. It was awful. Mm-hmm. And but through that, like through the miscarriage, Alan and I realized like we might be financially in the weirdest place ever, but I know that we are ready for children whenever it comes. Mm-hmm. Because it was like that. It was that, oh my gosh, how are we going to pay for this? And then, oh my gosh, like we're so excited. We've always wanted to be parents. And then like mourning this whole future you thought would happen in the span of like 3 weeks. It's just so crazy. And so what happened after that, everything got better steadily. It was so much better after that. But Alan was like my rock through it all. He was so solid, so consistent and sweet and like just being whatever I needed him to be in the moment. And I think that's what helped me more than anything. He didn't try to be like, should you try harder? or anything like that. He was just awesome. So I actually took a job. I said I would never do it, but I actually got back into restaurant work. And there's it's closed now, but Woodlawn Cycle Cafe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Armand owned that, and I had talked to him briefly, and he had just had his half owner, part of owner him. And he was like, Kaitlin, you ready for a job? Because I would go in and I would like literally have change and like buy my black coffee just so I could be out of the house and like, oh, this is nice. Like, this is normal. But he knew who I was because I would come in almost every day and just have my little sad cup of coffee. And he was like, Kaitlin, are you ready for a job? And I was like, yes, I'll be there. Like, and so I jumped back into that. And what I didn't know, and I don't know why I was so like snobbish at the time, because, you know, I'm a college graduate. Like, I shouldn't go back to restaurant work. I need to like be back in it. And it healed me in the best way. It gave me community. It helped heal all of that like cynicism and things that like I experienced over 8 months post graduation. And it gave me community because I was just in one place and people would come to me. So I met lawyers and I met musicians and I met nurses and I met, you know, and so I got to know Birmingham all over again. And it was the best gift. So then when I found out a few months in that I was pregnant, like, hey, Armand, I know you just hired me, but I have a time bomb. Just hopes you're cool with that. So then when I was confronted with motherhood and then after motherhood and realizing that restaurant life and motherhood wasn't sustainable for me, I like dug out my paintbrushes and I was like, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to try again. And so I did. And we applied for don't ask me why I thought this was a good idea, but
I love this story. I'm like, I can't wait to hear what's next.
I know. So I like, you know, I was trying everything. Like one day I'll like have a whole TED talk about like trying and failing. It'll be great. So SCAD has a program for alumni at their different locations. And so there's a summer one in Lacoste that basically it's like an artist residency, like a very traditional artist residency for alumni. And to say like, hey, like pitch us a project. And if so, we'll take care of your plane ticket. We have quarters, you can stay there and for like 3 months. And I was like, Alan and I, I'm gonna pitch Alan and I and our new board. And I was like, they will never go for this. They never have accepted like couples with children or anything like that. And they did. So I took our 3-month-old with me and Alan, and we went to this medieval village in France. And just like, it was the most life-changing 3 months of my life. Like, I will never be the same after doing that together. It was the first time we got to work together on a collaboration. I was still a new mom, but everything 3 to 6 months actually is like an easy age compared to like newborn or
I totally agree with you. It's like you can take them anywhere.
Yeah.
And it is good. Yeah.
So it was wonderful, but like it just taught me a different way of living because culturally they have work and life so separate. And the whole country honors that. And so you can't like lunch is extended. And so that way that kids can come home from their, you know, creche or the school and they can have lunch together as a family. And so it's like this, it blew my mind. And then you going to the grocery, you would go to market on Saturdays or there'd be a market on Tuesdays that would come to the village. And we would eat what they had available. And so this idea of like seasonal living and being in the moment. And like, I just had not allowed myself to do that at all up until that point. Cause I just like the hustle. And you just get so caught up in it that I was just in a constant cycle of burnout. Like I would be like burnout. And I didn't know why. And so now this made me fall in love with life again. It was crazy. And I know it's easy to do that because it's like France. But if I had not just submitted an application and just with the whole pitch and everything, it would not have happened. But I was like, I'll just try. And so with that, we came off of that and came home, and it was always the question of what's after. And so we're like, Dreamers Supply Company was born during that time. And it was the first time we like looked at each other and we're like, we can do this and we can do this together. And so we just built it while we were there. And I like was calling because I found a place and my sister and like riding her to get it painted and like this whole thing. And we got home and what Dreamers initially was it was to showcase our products, but we wanted to kind of have this Etsy like basically the makers that we've fallen in love with across the country and some locals. But our local scene is still pretty small in comparison to most major cities. And so we would have this dreamy little retail space. And so it lived in that kind of zone until pandemic. And it was great. We had like all kinds of stuff. We had rotating gallery shows. So we had like a Wes Anderson group exhibition where I had all the local artists pitch like original concepts based off of the Wes Anderson films. And so we had a gallery show with like live music. And there's so many good moments of that. It's really like great. But 4 or 5 months into the pandemic, I've had hit my limit. It was August of last year. I was like, oh, it feels like 5 years ago. August of last year. And I realized that I was going to have to be doing all my holiday buying. And I had no money. Like I had enough to pay rent and enough to pay the utilities. And I was like, there's no way that I can do this, especially because this isn't letting up anytime soon. I don't know what's going to happen. And I'm going to have to spend I need about 10 grand for inventory to prepare us for Christmas. And I have 0 to work with. And so I was like, I need to say goodbye. Like I need to be able to say, and I cried so hard. And I just basically, I had the best community and I sold off everything. And I was like, when we reopen in like a month or 2, we will just have the things that Alan and I make. And then it will just be us. Nothing can prop us up. It'll just be what we make. And that is what we originally intended anyways, was to have our own stuff. But people would come in the store and be like, oh, you're an illustrator? Where's your work? And I'd be like, I don't know. I'll get to it. And then Alan would be the same way because he was working full time at another place at the time. And it'd be like, well, where's Alan's work? And those beautiful bags that you saw at Paris Market, there'd be like one lone bag on a hook. And so when we reopened, we just pushed and was like, okay, we're going to do it and make it our own. And the community was wonderful. We had a great Christmas last year. But then after 3 months of like January, February, March hit, and I was like, our lease is up from, we did a 2-year lease and then another 2-year lease, and our lease was up. And I was like, I just can't do this anymore. Like 98% of our sales had moved online. I didn't have any foot traffic. And every month I was fighting with Alabama Power. Our space was like 200 square feet. It was not big. And our bill was like $450 every month. And I do not understand. And so it seems like, oh, like, but your purses are this, so it should balance out. But it really, like any gain that we got, it was immediately detracted from overhead. And with the commercial lease, we also had to pay the property taxes and we had to pay for the insurance for the building. That was a part of the agreement I signed on to, which didn't seem like a big deal at the time, but So we moved purely online. And we were like, we're going to beef up wholesale and we're going to be online. And so then I reached out to Paris Market on a whim because I know who is her buyer in France because I met her in France. And so she was like, do you know Paula at the Paris Market and blah, blah, blah. She's like cute and Irish and lives.
Have her on the Wealth Edit. That's a great store.
Yeah.
Got a great brand.
Amazing. And so she's like, Ruth contacted me. She's like, you need to reach out to Paula because Paula would just love, like, I think it would be a great partnership. And so I did. I sent Paris Market has like been one of my dreams. Like I was in Savannah while we were in school and I would go every week and I'd be like, one day my stuff will be in here. It will be. And so like years later, and so I contacted her earlier this year and I was like, hey, Paula, I think that we would be really great together. And I sent her pictures of my stuff and of Alan's stuff. And she was like, oh my gosh, when can we meet? And so I was like, oh, what? Oh, okay. She said, yes. It's so, it's been a lot of little moments like that all year. Whereas as soon as I make a hard decision, good things follow it. And I make another hard decision and good things follow it. So I'm still in the moment, like we have not made it. And sense. But we take care of our family. We're able to live off of what we make, and we're growing, and I get to like be with my children and be very fulfilled in what I do. And so anyways, that's why I'm like, it's a whole long story, but that is kind of where we are in bringing us up to speed right now. So Alan is the accessory designer, so he makes all the gorgeous handbags from start to finish.
You're
Sketches it,
beautiful.
can make a 3-dimensional design out of paper and then make it out of leather. I will never understand like how he could just poof, like it's there. And then I'm an illustrator, so I do that full time for brands, and a lot of local brands, and then some that are more like regional. And then I have my own illustrations that I sell within under our Dreamers umbrella. So yeah, that's me, like
Well,
in a
it's a
nutshell.
It's a beautiful story, and there's a lot of really wonderful lessons in this. I love your company is so beautifully named for the
Yes.
bravery that you're willing to exhibit over and over again as you're chasing your dreams. And I think that that's really important. I mean, to see an opportunity and just to say, why not? I mean, that seems to be like your vibe. It's actually our vibe here.
Yes.
This is what we do. We're like, let's just see. I mean, and then it's like your whole story could change based on one, like you said, hard thing. I think that's beautiful. And anyway, it's just so amazing to hear your story and to really see the art, kind of like, I don't know, to see it grow and morph over time, because that's what art does. And to watch it with y'all it's beautiful. It really is.
And I love it. I had a conversation with somebody last night. I was on a walk and she was going through some hard things personally. And she said, you know what, I know what I need to do. I need to like confront my fear. And I was thinking about her because she is going through some major life changes. And I've had the same thing happen. And what I realized was like facing fear is like just a part of life. It's like how you deal with it. And I said to her, I know that this sounds crazy, but facing fear seems like it's going to make you weaker. Like somehow you're not going to make it, or you're not. I said, but honestly, that has been the thing that's given me more confidence and like actually more joy than anything that I've ever done in my life. Because when you're forced into those corners where you have to make the hard decisions, oftentimes they're not like what you think they're going to be. So closing the retail space, going back to work at a restaurant, like all of those things, you're just like, this does not make sense. Like, how is this going to like make me go forward? But then all of a sudden,
it's a huge pride battle, because you're like, I made it to this step, and then you have to change, and you're like, well,
yeah. You're like, a little dose of humility never hurt anybody. And I'm just like, I feel that way too, because it's just like, golly, but I was like, really, when I look back on it, it's the thing that like is life-giving, because then you look back and you can like, you've smiled the entire time you've told your story. Like there's just a joy there. And it's so fun to like just hear it and to see that like as women, oftentimes our career paths are not straight. They're just not.
There was a beautiful article. This was 150 years ago. Yeah. Or it just kind of plateaued. There was this beautiful article in the Atlantic a million years ago. I'll try to link it in the network afterwards if I can still find it. They say something like 98% of old links are broken. So chances are I won't be able to. But it was just talking about how like a male's career path is usually like that. Like it's just a very straight line. But because of taking time off to have babies or care for an aging parent or, divorce, whatever it is, a woman's career has a lot of plateaus in it, but we're also able to work longer and healthier than men. So, I don't know. I just think another thing about your story that I loved is just your willingness to follow your gut. I think a lot of times culturally, we're told to do like certain things and that's the very best path and maybe not, and I think that is what your story shares with us, is that there can be lots of beautiful paths that can lead you to exactly where you're supposed to be. So anyway, I know it's amazing. We're like already out of time, so you need to come back. And but do you want to?
Yeah, so we always ask our guests at the end of every interview is, why did you say yes to the Wealth Edit?
I'm so excited that you guys are championing women in financial education and normalizing talking about money, just because it is so important. I feel like men talk about things and there is no taboo about being able to talk about the subject. But for women, especially Southern women, I don't know why, but there seems to be this like weird barrier. And so I'm grateful that you guys are just like making it fun and making it exciting and relatable and all of that. So that's, I just love what you guys are doing.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, come back and they can find you on Instagram at Dreamer Supply Company, right?
Yes. And then, this is the other thing. As soon as it's so funny because I'm really close with Mark Thompson from Shop in General. And because I was in the neighborhood and we would, talk almost every single day. And he would come visit me, I would go visit him. And there's just something about the block between us of just traveling to and fro that people would just lose their way. It just didn't seem like it would connect. But he's like, Kaitlin, I was always going to mention to you, if you ever did close your doors, he's like, I want to build out a whole little shrine area for you. So he's like,
shop?
Yeah.
Oh, is it there right now?
No. So we're doing it for holidays. So they're actually coming in the next week to select their colors and their styles and everything. So he's been carrying my cards and prints for the past couple months, and they order every twice a month. It's crazy how many more I sell there. I'm like, oh, thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
So they do really well there. So if you see cards at Shopper General, those are my designs. But for all the leather goods, we've been kind of finalizing. Sourcing is a whole nother thing. And so we finally got all of our sourcing down and our color options. So they're coming in the next 2 weeks to decide on all the colors and the styles that they want. And then I think in October, mid-October, we'll have a whole display. So Dreamers will have a Birmingham presence where you can go and shop at 7 days a week. So, but isn't that crazy? And I'm so and it's amazing because now I have weekends with my babies, which was so hard, to be able to not be near them and stuff on the weekends or near Alan. And so now I can have the best of both worlds. I can have a retail presence with one of my best friends and have that, but then have my weekends set aside so I have that work-life balance, with, so it all works out. It just doesn't.
I love it.
It's so awesome.
Well, we can't wait to check them out. And thank you so much for being here today.
It's so great. And we'll have you back. We'd love it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You can talk to us about leather sourcing because actually I want to know about that too.
Yes. Anyway. Yeah. It is. It's hard, but I definitely will. I'll tell all on that in terms of what to look for and what not to look for.
Yeah.
And keywords that can, especially just on quality of stuff. I will tell you. I'll tell you about all the high name brands that you're like, oh, I think I have this and it's great and it's amazing. I'm like, that is made in Indonesia. They use this kind of leather. It looks like real leather. It's not. It's over here. So anyway,
spilling the tea with us soon. We're coming back and we're doing that.
We're coming back.
All right.
Thank you, Kaitlin.
Bye.
Bye.